Right. I'm going to make the specification for oopy invaders here, which is Homer 10, second question. Uh, the goal is to create a version of this game here. This is Space Invaders, which was one of the most popular games from the 1970s. It was created, I believe, in 1978. And here's basically how it works. When your game starts, you'll have these rows of monsters, 5 rows. You'll have these 4 barricades, if you would, and you have this one. I don't even call it paddle, I guess, and you control this one paddle down here. The way the game works is the monsters are going to move kind of together back and forth, which I'll show you in a moment, and they're also going to fire down at you. If they hit the barricades absorb the hit, uh, and then if they hit you, you die. Of course, you have a certain number of lives or a certain number of, in this case, I guess, paddles. We're not going to make a faithful representation of this. So we're not going to have everything you see on the screen, and the things we do have won't be exactly the same. So, for example, we'll draw the monsters as, I don't know, say circles. Okay, cyan circles for the top two. For the top one, that monster is different than the next two would be. Well, cyan circles, purple, magenta circles, and yellow circles. Okay, actually, as it is right now, it's a little weird because the color of the circle is actually not dependent on the nature of the monster. In any case, let's get started. So now, this is how gameplay works. You're not going to have sound, so we're going to turn the sound off. I thought you just maybe should hear it for a moment. No sound. So we're moving around with left and right arrows, and as we move left and right, we can fire. And this shows that you can fire through barricades. We're not going to fire through barricades. If you hit a barricade, it just takes the hit until it can't take hits anymore, and then the barricade goes away. If you hit a monster, it explodes. There's also this stuff coming across the top, so let's pause for a moment. Now, let's talk. You have several different kinds of monsters. Most of the monsters sweep left and right according to this weird kind of community motion that you're going to have to study a little bit to understand. But all of them share the same left-right sweeping motion. And so therefore, we're going to have this class of monster, and a subclass of monster is going to be this class of, you can call it what you want, but a left-right sweeping monster. Uh, and each of these are instances of that, but that's not true because we'll have 3 subclasses of the sweeping monsters. The first class will be the ones that look like these. The second class will be the ones that look like these. And the third class will be the ones that look like these. And when I said that these are going to be circles, you have to do something to allow us to understand the different classes. So the cyan circles maybe will have a dot in the middle, and the magenta ones maybe won't, and maybe the yellow ones would have 2 dots, whatever, so long as we can discern that they're different types. And you have to put the methods at the appropriate level, and we're not fully specifying this for you. If a draw method was at the monster level, what do you do about the fact that these different subclasses have to draw differently? That's for you to figure out and to think about. This is to get you thinking about object-oriented programming. The barricades, there's 4 instances. Let's go back a little bit so you can see them when they're a little more intact. Here, so there's 4 instances of the same class of barricade. The paddle, there's 4 instances to begin with of the paddle, although only one of them is the one you play with. The other 3 are kind of down here. Okay. The bullets or projectiles or missiles, maybe missiles, seems like there's only one class of those. This can be shared between the ones that you fire and the ones that the monster fire. When there are when you hit something, you don't have to have a really big, lovely explosion scene. The sequence for an explosion could be just displaying a single circle, maybe to signify it for like a second or something. It would be nicer if you had like an expanding circle or something. But this is more about the object-oriented side of things and less about the animation side of things. Don't make too much out of this. This is not meant to be a huge assignment. We are not going to give buckets of bonus for especially clever user interfaces, so keep it simple. As for the barricades, I would encourage you to make them rectangles, And as they get hit, maybe start with them being a very dark color and they get lighter until the last time they get hit and they just go away. And then, of course, after that, they don't stop missiles anymore. But I wouldn't do this thing like in this game, as the barricades are getting hit, see how they're kind of disappearing? You don't have to do that at all. You can just have them be there, but maybe lighter. In any case, the last thing is you have to add an additional feature so that an additional feature that makes good use of object-oriented programming, so that the implementation of that feature depends on methods at multiple levels of inheritance. You can figure out what that means. We're being in-specific here. Also, you want you to be able to invoke the game this way. We're going to call it oopy invaders, and we can create an instance of it like that. This is how we'll get your game to run. Notice we are not calling the run function from the events example 0 that we gave you. You're probably going to take that and embed it in here somehow. We are going to do exactly this to call an oopy invaders. And then when the game's over, we want to be able to call a get final score on that instance. We should be able to play a second game exactly the same way, at least in theory. And then finally, we should be able to get the total games played off of the class rather than off of an instance. So that speaks to you how this has to be implemented. In any case, that's the spec. There's some latitude here, so have fun with it, but don't get overwhelmed with it. Keep it simple.